On December 12, 2024, attorney Tom Giuffra filed 3 civil lawsuits against Sean P. Diddy Combs and his recording company Bad Boy Entertainment in Manhattan at the Supreme Court in the County of New York. All 3 lawsuits were filed as John Does since the 3 survivors feared retaliation from Combs or his associates. In each instance of the 3 men who filed civil lawsuits, an atmosphere of manipulation, domination, and control was exerted by P. Diddy. The imbalance of power, influence, and wealth intimidated the men and allowed P. Diddy unfettered access for his sexual assaults. Attorney Thomas Giuffra will continue to confront these malignant forces until justice is served.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Thomas Giuffra. I'm an attorney here in New York City. My last name is spelled Giuffra. We're here today to answer any questions for 3 lawsuits we filed against Sean Combs. All of these cases involve the rape of men. The facts of the cases are all dramatically similar. They all involved drugging of these victims, raping by Sean Combs and others, and following the rapes, threats to the safety of each one of these victims. And we're here to obtain some justice for these people for events that have been traumatizing them ever since. So that's what I'm here for. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Okay, why file the suit now? Why not file it before?
Well, the reason is to file the suit now is fear. First of all, they're traumatized by the fact that they were raped by Mr. Combs. And then second of all, each one of them were threatened with bodily harm if they went public or they said anything to anybody. So there's strength in numbers. Now that it's public, now that Sean Combs is in jail, they feel comfortable coming out as under a pseudonym, and I know there's been a lot about why are they not announcing their names. I think most rape victims wouldn't want their names out in public, and they also don't want to end up with a target on their back, so that's why. Anything else?
Can you tell us what they were doing at these parties that this happened?
Well, actually, they weren't all parties. There was only one that was a party. The other one, my client worked for Mr. Combs doing errands and things. And like a lot of rich guys, Sean Combs is cheap, and he didn't pay what he was supposed to do for the services that he was getting. And when my client went to meet with him to try to get paid for the work he had done, he was drugged and raped and threatened. And of course, he never got paid. One of them was a party out in the Hamptons where there were multiple rapes by multiple people. And the other one was at the Park Hyatt here in New York.
And were they reported to the police at the time?
They were not reported to the police because shortly after the incident, each one of these men were reached out to by members of his entourage at the time or after and were told, this didn't happen, you don't want this to be public. And they knew that Sean knew people who could potentially do them harm, so they were frightened.
Were they ever offered to be paid off?
Well, with one of them, when he was drugged out and being pushed out the door, they shoved money in his pocket and said, this never happened, right?
How much money was that?
It was $2,500, I believe.
And was that one the employee, the one from the Hamptons, or the one in the Hyatt?
The one at the Hyatt.
How did they know they were drugged?
Because they were talking to him like we're talking right now. They'd be given a drink, and shortly thereafter, and it's uncanny because I've spoken to 60 people, more or less, with claims, and I've only filed these 3 cases and put my name and my reputation behind them. But what would happen is they would be offered a drink, they would lose control of their bodies, they would pass out, and they'd be woken up being raped.
And anally raped?
Yes.
Okay. And was there anybody else there besides Combs?
For 2 of them, yes. For the one who was the employee, no.
Okay. Can you tell us who the other people were?
No, I cannot. They are not anybody famous, so I'm not making any claim like that.
So for the employee, can you tell us how long this person worked there and what he did?
He was basically, in the rap business, you see with these cases, I've learned a lot of things of how it works. It's you become associated. They have you hanging around as a hang-around and do certain errands and run around, and then hopefully you get a formal job. And he was doing that for a number of years, and he was hoping that he was going to have a career working for Sean's label, and it didn't happen. Bad boy, yeah.
And the rape happened when, after a number of years of doing errands for him, he went over and he asked to be paid what he's owed. And the rape happened as a sort of like retaliation.
Well, I think in any kind of rape, it's not about sex, right? It's about power. It's about taking somebody's dignity, and I think, particularly in the employee case, it was to show that he was the boss, he was in power, and he was going to take away his dignity. And I think that was the message to him on that incident.
And did he continue to work after?
No, not at all. No, that was the last time he saw Sean Combs, and that was it. And of course, he never got paid either.
And how come they're not doing or bringing him criminally negligent now?
Well, I think the problem is this. I mean, in any kind of case like this, where there's the time that's gone by, it's difficult to find evidence. It's fundamentally who's more credible, who's not. The standards are different for civil cases than they are in criminal cases. And really, ultimately, the only people who have a videotape in at least one of my cases is Sean Combs, and I'm certainly not going to see that, right? So
how are you going to prove this then?
How am I what?
How are you going to prove the case?
Well, testimony, evidence, and
what kind of evidence do you have?
You have the people's testimony.
It's testimony.
Well, that's in any of these cases. I've handled these cases for 25 years. The number of cases where you have evidence are very few. I've handled cases against Harvey Weinstein. I've handled cases against Darius Baduch. I've handled cases against Dr. Hayden. It's really all you can really say is what one person says happened in the other, and what's more credible. And frankly, as I said before, I've talked to a lot of people, and these are the three that I'm willing to put my name and my reputation behind, because I believe them to be credible. And there are a lot of them that I didn't think that were.
Okay, and the gentleman who was raped at the Hamptons party, he came from Florida. Did he fly him out?
Yes, he was invited to go to the party, and he was brought up there by one of Diddy's people. And the interesting thing with him is he was able to describe the Hamptons house in very excruciating detail. And that's one of the things you look for. You're looking, to your question, looking to see whether the things that support what they're saying. And he was being brought up for a party.
And that's the one where there's multiple.
Right, that's right.
Employees from the.
Yeah, it's a very strange and troubling dynamic. It's a real. Any rape is a power move, but these are really grotesque power moves to dehumanize people. And the way it was done was in a very dehumanizing fashion. I mean, there was no question other than it was to dehumanize them, based on what they've told me.
So, I mean, who was this guy just, they flew him out for this party to do that? Like, was that also some sort of retaliation? Or?
Well, no. I think he went there thinking he was going to a P. Diddy party. And of course, if you don't know what was going on with P. Diddy, like most of us didn't back in the time, who wouldn't say no to go to a P. Diddy party out in the Hamptons? Sure, who'd say no?
It sounds like with the employee, it was like an issue with retaliation.
That was a retaliation for sure.
With this guy, it was like a sex thing.
It's never a sex thing in a rape. It was a power move. And it was, I think there's a certain culture as to what you can do, and which is to dominate, and what's not. And different people that get into this kind of stuff, I mean, based on other cases they have different kind of kinks.
But how did this person know Diddy? Like, he flew him out for the party for just to be like there kind of.
Yeah, like basically it. To just be there. And to go to a party, you get invited to a party. Diddy, he's having a party. You want to go to the party? Yeah, sure, I'll go to the party. And then realize you're the party.
Well, I'm trying to figure out if this one there was anything more to it, or it was like a kink, like sex type of situation where they just wanted to do it for their own pleasure, or there was like something else involved.
That one, I think it was just more the kink. Yeah, that was more the kink. I think the first one with the employee was definitely retaliation, was power. They're all power, but I think you could distinguish the two between the kinks and the power move.
And then any information about the third person?
I'm sorry?
Any information about the third person?
It was a similar kind of thing. He was invited over. Actually, he met him in a nightclub. He was invited to meet him in a nightclub here in the city. It was starting to be after hours. They said, let's go back to the Park Hyatt for the after party, and then this happened to him.
And
So
also this is sexual.
it's, yeah.
Is there
Thank you very much.
Is there anything that you'd like to add that you think is important for us to know?
No, I just think it's important that, a lot of the news is that people are coming out of the woodwork and there are 130 cases. What I said before is I've talked to over 60 people and I've only put my name behind 3 of them because I think, whenever you have a high profile case like this, you have to be careful that they're not opportunists, and I'm very careful about that. Like, for example, in the Weinstein case, I had a lot of calls on that, but I only took 1 case because it was the one I thought was strong and credible, and you have to do that as a lawyer. You have to assess your client as much as the other side, so. Good?
Thank you very much. Yeah,
All right, thank you.
No criminal records. Is there anything medical for these guys?
No, these guys, well, what happened is, they didn't go to the doctor. They basically went home, sat in the bathtub. One of them had a lot of complications afterwards, the employee, because that one was particularly violent for a number of months. But
Did he go to the doctor?
no, he didn't go to the doctor.
Why not? Like out of shame, or?
I think a lot of it is shame. It's very, any kind of one of the things you see in these cases is it's fear-based, it's shame-based. That's why New York, to our credit here in New York, we have kind of more of a modern view of sexual assault and abuse, and we managed to protect people because in the old days nobody would come forward, right? Because they wouldn't want their name in the press, they wouldn't want their name out there where their husband, their wife could find out something like this happened to them. So that protects somebody and enables them to proceed with their case, and I think that's the appropriate thing to do.
So it's in the filing, like what they're.
Yeah.
What they're suing for.
Well, in terms of monetary damage, I don't sit here and rattle off numbers in my filings. I just don't. It just exceeds the jurisdictional limits of the New York State courts, and so that's what I do in every case. They're all different cases. They're handled differently.
And what about the time? When did this happen?
You're going to make me look at my dates because I'm getting old and I get forgetful on my dates. 2020, 2019.
Okay, so this was like
Pretty recent, yeah. So it's not a case that falls under the Gender Motivated Violence Act because it's still timely. So it's not like the cases are getting filed against Dr. Paduch. We have about 30 of those filed, but it's a different kind of case. Okay?
all right.
Thank you very much.
All right, terrific. Nice to meet y'all. Have a good holiday.
Have you been abused by Sean P. Diddy Combs and his associates? Call today for a free consultation